Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 52 of the English with Kirsty podcast. And if you look at the title for this podcast, Are You Annoying Your Readers? I don't think anybody wakes up with the intention, I'm going to be really annoying today. But I decided to do this because I had a spate of emails that were really quite annoying a couple of weeks ago, and it got me thinking about things that annoy me. And this isn't going to be a rant about everything that annoys me in email communication, but I wanted to do something a bit more constructive with it and to look at some of the things that I don't like to see and try to explain why it's a problem and what people can do instead. So I'm going to look at 12 different things that people have. They're real examples. I'm not going to name names, but they're real things that have happened and why they were a problem and what the person could have done better, because then other people can learn from these situations in case you're doing any of these things, because most of the time people don't know that they're being annoying, or they don't think about it, because usually when somebody emails you they want to tell you something or they want you to take some kind of action, and if you annoy the other person they're going to be less likely to do that action because you've annoyed them. So your email will probably go to the back of the pile. And so that's just why I wanted to have a look at some of these things that people do. And I wanted to be clear as well, it's not people who are asking for English lessons that generally annoy me, it's people that want to offer me something or to work with me, or so I expect there to be, I'm not talking about mistakes in terms of language or grammar or that kind of thing, because if somebody's asking for help with English, I don't expect them to have it all right, but it's more the kind of business emails from other people, other businesses, and things that they could do better. So I'm not going to be talking here about not checking your grammar properly, although you should do that to the best of your ability, but it's not that kind of annoying. It's about the way that you speak to people and what you ask them to do. So number one, do you have time for a meeting now? So for me, when I got this now was 6 o'clock in the evening on a bank holiday, and I did not have time for a meeting now because I was busy. So the thing here is just to think about, I mean, I work with a lot of people in Germany and I do try to know when the holidays are, which is a bit hard in Germany because in different parts of the country they're at different times. But I try to be aware of that, and I don't expect other people to know when the English holidays are, but I do expect them not to expect me to drop everything for an email right now, because there are very few things that are that important that would warrant a meeting right now. Maybe if you're working on something like an event or something and it's tomorrow and something bad has happened and you need to speak to someone right now, then yeah, but generally people don't have time to just drop everything and have a meeting with you right now, particularly when that's in the evening. You know, you may want to work in the evenings, but other people might not. So try to show respect for the person that you're talking to by saying, you know, these are some dates that would be good for me. Should we have a meeting about this? When would be good for you? But don't expect them to drop everything and have a meeting with you right now. Particularly if you're not, I mean, if you're their manager and something's happened, maybe you do need to speak to a member of staff. But if it's somebody you don't know, or if it's somebody from another company, then that's not a good idea, because that makes them feel that, do you think I have nothing else to do? Okay, the second one is, can we have a meeting? And this may be okay if you're talking to a colleague or somebody that you know quite well. Can we just catch up? Can we have a coffee and have a chat? That's fine. But if you don't know someone and you just ask them for a meeting and you don't say why, then that is quite annoying, because the other person can't prepare for the meeting. They can't decide whether they actually want to have the meeting because they don't know what it's about. So just randomly asking, oh, can we have a meeting? Can we have a phone call? My first question is usually, why? Are you interested in something that I can offer you? If so, I can get some more information about it for you. Are you trying to offer me something? In which case, I'd like to have some idea what it is, because if I'm not interested, then I can save us both time and we won't have the meeting. So if you want a meeting with somebody, then think about how you introduce yourself, how you explain why you want a meeting. And it's much more likely to have a better response then, because then the person will think, okay, yeah, I know about this, I can bring some information about this, or no, that's completely irrelevant to me and I'm not going to put it in my calendar because we don't need to have this meeting. So if you want a meeting, you'll get better response by being clear about who you are, why you want the meeting, what it's for, and also, like in point 1, not expecting it to be right now. Number 3, did you get my email when you sent it like 2 minutes ago? That is quite annoying, and I haven't had it recently, but I have had it before. There was a particular colleague who used to do this, and it used to drive me crazy because I hadn't even if I opened the email as soon as I got it, I hadn't had time to read it before he was calling and asking if I got the email. And that's just, if you do that to people, it makes them, it doesn't give them a good association with your name when it comes up on the phone display, or it just makes them think, oh, who is this? Just give me a break. Give me time to read the email. So don't be that pestering person. If somebody hasn't responded to you and it's important, then by all means follow up, but give them time to read the email. Don't expect that they're just sitting at their desk waiting for an email from you, because people have other things to do. So follow up is fine, but give it a bit of time, because otherwise you probably will just annoy the other person and make them feel that you're hassling them and chasing them to get back to you. Number 4, you need to read this ASAP in big capital letters. I can think of very few occasions when this is true. Maybe, I don't know, I'm working on something with somebody and there's been an important change to the plan and the meeting's going to be in a different location, and I really want the person to see that before they leave, and then I might mark it as high importance, and you need to see this, open immediately, whatever, because it is urgent. I don't want the person to go to the wrong place. However, if it's just a sales email, I don't need to read it ASAP. And if you put that kind of pressure on people, some people will say, oh, it makes them think that the email's really important, but that can be quite annoying, because it's making an assumption that what you're saying is really important to the other person, and if it isn't, then they're just going to think, oh, you know nothing about me, you know nothing about my priorities, and it'll just end up in the bin. So by all means, try to think of some really creative and interesting things to do with your subject line, because the subject line is really important. It's the first thing that people see when they see your email. However, just telling them how important you think it is generally doesn't work that well, because if they see your name and they think that what you're going to tell them is important, they'll click on it anyway. But you telling them what's important, particularly if you don't know someone, will probably just annoy them and get your email thrown in the bin. Number 5, I got an email that said, I expected to have heard from you. And I hadn't responded to the first email from this person because they were trying to sell me something that was completely irrelevant and that I didn't want, so I just binned it because it was unsolicited spam. But if you say something like that, I might use that kind of phrase if I'd made a complaint and it was important and the company had not responded to my complaint and I was getting annoyed. If there's a good reason to expect to have heard from someone, like people should follow up complaints, that kind of thing, then that would be okay if you're getting annoyed about something. But if you're just trying to sell somebody something and they didn't get back to you, then I expected to have heard from you will just get their back up. They'll just feel, you know, you have no right to expect to have heard from me. So another way you can do that is, oh, I was wondering if you got my email. I thought I may have heard from you by now, or I was hoping to have heard from you by now. That's fine, because it was your hope. You know, I would like to hear from you. I hope to hear from you. But to expect to hear from someone is quite harsh, and it's okay if you're angry, but it's not okay if you've just sent somebody some unsolicited email and they just threw it out. So be careful with words, like strong words that make it sound as if you're being a bit aggressive, because I don't think the person actually was who wrote this, but it doesn't really matter about your intention. It's more about how you come across. So I think this person just meant, oh, I hoped I would have heard from you by now, but because they wrote, I expected to have heard from you by now, it just comes across as being quite aggressive and quite confrontational. And if you want to do business with somebody, that's not really the way to go if you want them to think positively about you and what you're offering them. So number 6, this is mainly for people who have mailing lists and stuff, but I got a whole spate of them at once, and it's, oh, was it something I said? Oh, you're not opening my emails. Oh, did I do something wrong? Oh, I just felt like saying, well, get over it. People don't open your emails sometimes. That's life. Move on. If you haven't got a good reason to think that you've offended somebody, then don't send emails like that, because it's not cool. It makes people think, well, it made me just delete the email and unsubscribe. It may make other people feel bad, but do you really want people to deal with you because they feel bad when they haven't actually done anything wrong? Number 7 is worse when it's written than when it's spoken, but kind of writing in text speak and putting the whole message in the subject line. Can you, with the letter U, give me your number, cause I need to. That's not cool. I mean, I don't do it even in text. Some people choose to with their friends maybe, but if you're trying to write something for business, then A, don't do that. Write the words out properly, because it doesn't make a very professional impression. And B, don't put it all in the subject line because that just looks weird. You have this monstrous subject line with loads of information in it. That's why we have the body of the email. So just think about the way that you lay it out. Even if you are writing on a mobile device, you're still trying to have a professional conversation with somebody, and that doesn't mean you can't. If you know somebody, I've been known to put smileys in emails before. If I'm not saying it has to be a complete formal business letter, but if this is the first contact you've had with somebody, you definitely don't want to be using all these abbreviations and making it look like a text, because again, first impressions count, and that doesn't make a good first impression. Number 8. This isn't something I've received, but I've seen other people do this. So like, this is the second time I've asked you and the deadline is tomorrow. It just sounds really kind of officious and confrontational. A better way to say that would be something like, you're probably aware that the deadline's tomorrow. I know you're busy, but we really need to have this information. Can you please do whatever by whenever? So instead of making an accusation like, you haven't done this, I've asked you to do it and you haven't done it, make it a request. Even if you're right, even if you are someone with the authority to say, I need this done now, you're more likely to get a positive response if you don't make accusations like that. You haven't done it, we still need this information. Your contribution is important. Whatever you say, make it a bit more friendly, and then people are much more likely to interact with you. Even if they don't want to do the task, they won't see you as the problem because you've been polite to them. And I've worked in a situation where people really did have a lot on, and a lot of the time it wasn't that they couldn't be bothered to meet requests or to do things. It was just because they were so busy. And if you acknowledge that, I always try to, then people responded better to me than to people who just said, hey, you haven't done this yet, where is it? If you try to get people on side and to be friendly towards people, then they're more likely to do what you're asking them to do. Some won't, but more often than not they will. Number 9. I love your website and I always learn such a lot from it, and I was wondering about a guest article or some advertising or whatever. Be honest. And I'm not saying you shouldn't send out mass emails, because I use templates sometimes. I send my newsletter out. That means everybody gets the same information. I've done mail shots before to, for example, universities, when there was something that I was doing that I thought was relevant for students, so they got the same text. It was saying, I think this may be of interest to your students or whatever. So I'm not saying don't use the same text, but if you're going to say something like, I listened to your podcast and I think it's great, or I read your website and I think it's great, then don't just say that without any examples. Because if you don't use examples, people will think, oh, that's the same stupid text that's gone to loads of people. So using it as standard text isn't the problem, but pretending to make it personalized is. So if somebody says, oh, I've read your website and I learned so much, I particularly like this article because it helped me to understand this problem, then fine, great. They obviously have read my website. But if you say, oh, your website's so good, I learn from it all the time, and leave it like that, then you think, yeah, right, that's gone to about 100 other people, and it doesn't mean anything. So if you're going to try and personalize something, then give some justification for that. I really like this podcast episode about whatever, because otherwise people will think, you're just lying to me. It's just a standard text and you don't really love my website or my podcast, and you lose credibility that way. Number 10, and this, I think this was a bit of a language issue rather than somebody being rude. It just said, oh, you haven't answered my questions. And it's just a more polite way of saying that. I understood the point, and that didn't particularly annoy me, but I have included it here. It's much better to say something like, oh, I need some further information about whatever, rather than just, you didn't do what I asked, you didn't answer my question, you're more likely to get a positive response again if you just phrase it in a way that says, oh, I need some more information about this question, or could you have a look at my email with the questions again, or something like that. But just starting sentences with you haven't is not the best way to go, because it always makes the other person feel, oh, you're telling me I haven't done something. It may be true, but if you want them to do that thing, then it's better to phrase it in a more positive way. 11, being overly emotional, like saying, oh, I've really missed you, when you barely know the person. So different cultures are different. How much emotion is put into the emails, how much emotion people show with their colleagues or people they're doing business with. It's different from culture to culture, and it is good to have that cultural awareness. English people don't tend to be overly emotional and to use loads of emotional language. They do sometimes, but if you are so emotional that somebody doesn't believe you, like, I don't know, if my partner goes away on business and he comes back, yeah, I've missed him. If I have to go away and I couldn't, in the past, if I've had to go away and I couldn't take my dog with me, I missed her when I came back. I was really pleased to see her. But I don't really miss people that I just haven't had a chance to get back to. And if you pretend that you have, or if you say that you have and the other person doesn't believe you, then you lose credibility, because they just think, oh yeah, whatever, rather than having the desired effect, and they think, oh yeah, I'm important to this person, they just think, oh, really it can look a bit insincere if the other person doesn't believe the emotion that you're trying to convey. So think about who you're writing to and how they're likely to respond, and if they're not really emotional people, then try and keep to the point more and make it a bit more businesslike, because rather than making them want to deal with you, you may just make them think, oh, really you missed me, did you? And it just may not come across as well as you hope it will, because I think sometimes people do that to try and be a bit less formal, a bit less businesslike, but it doesn't always come across as well if you don't get that right. Number 12, no means no. So if you want somebody to do something, or you want them to buy something, or you think that you have the most amazing offer that anybody would be crazy to miss, you may think all these things, but if they say no, then you should really respect that, because it's not nice to have to keep repeating no. And I know there is some training out there that says no just means not yet, but I don't believe that. There are occasions where people aren't sure about something, so maybe they'll decide to buy what you're offering, but if someone says no, then that should mean no. When I say no, I have thought about the way that English people communicate, because sometimes people say things like, oh, I don't have time at the moment, or I don't need this at the moment. And this at the moment can be misinterpreted, because some people think it means, oh, okay, so today you don't, but maybe next week you will, or maybe next month. But English people often use this as a bit of a softener, because it's a bit harsh to say, no, I don't want it, no, I don't need it. But that is what I tend to do now, to be very clear about, no, I don't need this service. and just leave it there, or no, I'm not interested in this product. Because if you tag on something like at the moment or at this time or anything like that, other people can misinterpret it to mean, oh, okay, well, I'll try again next week or something. There was a guy who was trying to sell something, you know, these people that come round from door to door and was trying to, I think he wanted money. I don't know what he wanted really, but I didn't have time. And so I said, oh, you know, I'm busy. I don't have time right now. And then he said, oh, when will you have time? I'll come back. And so I had to say, well, that's just a polite way of saying I don't want to speak to you. And it's the same with people who just come around trying to sell things or get money for things. I don't want to engage in that conversation, so I have to say, you know, I'm busy. I'm not interested in what you're trying to sell, because otherwise, you know, people, I think they generally get a lot of people saying no, and they try and push, but don't be that person, because it looks a bit desperate. If someone says no and you keep coming back, oh, but did you not know that it's got this really good feature? Did you know that this would be, you know, have people doing business with you because they want to, because they think that what you have is really good, not because you're just hassling them, or the same for setting up a meeting. Don't let people have a meeting with you just because they want to get rid of you. That's not a good way to start. So by all means, explain the good things about what you're trying to offer, but if somebody says no, then respect them and move on, because otherwise, in the future, if they do need the thing that you're trying to sell or offer, they may come back to you, but they won't if all they remember is this annoying person who wouldn't take no for an answer. So they are the 12 things, and in all of them, I don't think in any of these people are trying to be annoying, but sometimes it can come across as us being a bit pushy, or as being a bit vague, or as just the way that the words are phrased, and it doesn't have the desired effect. So have a look and see if you've ever done any of these things, and maybe you know of some more things that really annoy you. So again, not so much with the language or the grammar, but just the way that you get things done. Have a look at them, make sure you're not doing any of them, and if you want a PDF checklist of these things, then you can request it on the show notes page, which is www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 52. And there's also a contact form on there, so you can send me any comments, or you can sign up for the Facebook group, or you can sign up for the newsletter as well. So a number of things that you can do on that page, which again is www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 52. So have a good week and have fun learning English. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.